There is a moment that arrives quietly, so quietly that most people miss it completely. It does not enter with noise. It does not announce itself with chaos. It slips into the atmosphere like a change in the wind, subtle, almost invisible, yet everything begins to feel different after it arrives. And tonight, as you listen to these words, you may already sense that shift surrounding you. Don't skip, because something important is waiting for you inside this message. Someone close to your path has been watching your light more carefully than you realize. Not with admiration alone, but with confusion. Because no matter how many times life tried to slow you down, your spirit kept moving forward. Even when your heart felt exhausted, even when your confidence trembled in silence, there was still something within you that refused to disappear. That quiet strength unsettled certain people around you. They could not understand how you continued to rise while carrying invisible battles no one else saw. And slowly, without you noticing, conversations began happening behind closed doors. Not dangerous conversations. Not cruel scenes from some dark story. No, something far more realistic than that. Whispered opinions. Misunderstandings. Silent comparisons. For different individuals, each carrying their own insecurities, somehow becoming connected by one shared focus, you. But listen carefully. This is not a story about losing something. This is a story about discovering what can never truly be taken from you. At first, their actions seemed small. A delayed response. A strange tone. A sudden distance that made no sense. You felt it, didn't you? That strange moment when the energy around certain people changed without explanation. Your spirit noticed before your mind did. Stay till the end, because the meaning behind this shift is deeper than you think. One of them envies your peace. Another envies the way people naturally trust you. The third is quietly frustrated because your presence reminds them of the version of themselves they abandoned long ago. And the fourth person does not even fully understand why they are involved anymore. They simply followed the emotional current created by the others. Yet none of them truly understand what they are reaching toward. Because what they thought they could take from you was never material in the first place. It was your confidence. Your hope. Your calmness. Your ability to keep believing in better days even after disappointment. That is what unsettled them. And tomorrow, something symbolic is about to happen. A conversation. An encounter. A moment where energies cross again. Perhaps through words. Perhaps through silence. Perhaps through an unexpected realization that changes the atmosphere completely. You do not need to fear this moment. In fact, part of your spirit has been preparing for it longer than you know. Pause here for a second. Have you noticed how different you have become recently? Not louder. Not colder. Just clearer. You no longer chase every explanation. You no longer beg to be understood. You are slowly becoming someone who recognizes their own worth without needing constant confirmation from the world around them. And that transformation is powerful. More powerful than you realize. The truth is, some people only feel united when they gather around confusion. But eventually, confusion loses its strength when it stands too close to someone who carries inner clarity. That is why this story is shifting already, even before tomorrow arrives. Something huge is waiting for you, and it is not revenge. It is not conflict. It is awareness. Because while they believed they were moving toward your weakness, they are actually walking toward a reflection of their own emptiness. And deep inside, one of them already knows it. One of them has started questioning everything. One of them cannot sleep peacefully anymore because they secretly realize you never deserved the silent tension placed around you. They remember your kindness, your patience, the moments you showed understanding even when no one offered the same to you. That memory keeps returning to them unexpectedly, like a quiet voice interrupting their pride. Meanwhile, you are entering a season where your energy becomes harder to disturb. Not because life suddenly becomes perfect, but because you are finally learning something rare. Not every shadow around you deserves your emotional reaction. That lesson changes everything. Don't skip, because the next part of this journey reveals why your silence recently became more powerful than your explanations ever were. There is a reason your spirit has felt emotionally distant from certain environments lately. You outgrew conversations built on insecurity. You outgrew circles that only felt connected through comparison. And although part of your heart still wished everyone could move together peacefully, another part of you already sensed the separation coming. Yet even now, you are not being guided toward bitterness. You are being guided toward discernment. There is a difference. Bitterness hardens the heart. Discernment protects it. And the more this unfolds, the more you will realize that your energy was never meant to shrink itself just to make uncertain people comfortable. Look closely at your recent life. The delayed plans. The emotional confusion. The moments where you felt overlooked. What if some of those pauses were not punishments at all? What if they were moments quietly redirecting you away from environments that could no longer carry your future? That changes the meaning of everything, doesn't it? Because suddenly, what felt like rejection begins to resemble protection. And tomorrow's moment, the encounter that has been building silently behind the scenes, may become the beginning of a deeper realization for everyone involved. Especially you. Because you are about to see clearly who truly carries peace within themselves, and who only borrows confidence from the opinions of others. The atmosphere is shifting already. You can feel it. That strange mixture of anticipation and calmness inside your chest right now is not accidental. Your spirit recognizes when transformation is near. Even before your eyes fully see it, your heart begins preparing first. And this is only the beginning. Wait, before you allow your mind to wander too far ahead, notice what has already changed inside you since the last moment you listened. Something softened. Something awakened. It is almost as if your spirit finally stopped trying to force itself into spaces that were never truly built for your peace. And that realization, quiet as it may seem, is becoming impossible to ignore now. Tomorrow is approaching slowly, but emotionally, the shift has already begun. One of those 4 people sat alone recently, replaying old conversations in their mind. Not because someone forced them to, but because your absence created a silence they did not expect to feel. Strange, isn't it? How people sometimes fail to understand your value while you are constantly available, yet the moment your energy pulls back, they suddenly begin searching for the warmth they once overlooked. Stay till the end, because something important is waiting for you in this next revelation. There was a time when you would have tried to fix everything immediately. You would have over-explained your heart. You would have searched endlessly for the exact words capable of restoring harmony. But now? You are changing. Not into someone cold, never that. You are simply becoming more aware of where your emotional energy truly belongs. And that awareness is powerful. Because while those individuals believed they understood you completely, they only understood the version of you that kept sacrificing your peace to maintain connections. They never imagined what would happen once you began choosing yourself too. That is the part no one prepared for. Especially the second person. The one who smiles outwardly yet quietly measures themselves against everyone around them. Your growth unsettled them more than they admitted. Every time you remained calm instead of reacting, every time you carried yourself with quiet dignity instead of desperation, it created questions inside them they did not know how to answer. How could someone remain gentle after disappointment? How could someone continue believing in good things after emotional exhaustion? How could you still shine softly without becoming bitter? Those questions followed them longer than you know. And now, tomorrow's moment carries emotional weight because the truth is slowly surfacing for all of them at once. The energy surrounding you cannot be controlled the way they once assumed. Your spirit was never fragile. Sensitive, yes. Deeply emotional, yes. But fragile? Never. There is a difference between softness and weakness. You are finally learning that. Don't skip, because this next part matters more than you realize. Late tonight, while most people around you continue moving through ordinary routines, your spirit is quietly standing at the edge of transformation. Not dramatic transformation. Not the kind seen in movies or exaggerated stories. Something far more meaningful. The kind where you suddenly stop begging for clarity because clarity begins appearing naturally through people's actions. That realization changes relationships forever. You begin noticing who only approaches you when they need emotional comfort. Who disappears during your quieter seasons. Who secretly celebrates your delays because your progress reminds them of their own fear. And who genuinely wishes peace for you without competition hiding beneath their kindness. This is why your intuition has been stronger lately. You are seeing beyond words now. And somewhere inside your heart, you already know exactly which connection has been draining your energy the most. You felt it the moment certain conversations started feeling forced. You felt it when your achievements were met with strange silence instead of genuine happiness. You felt it during those moments when you walked away from interactions feeling emotionally heavy without understanding why. Your spirit was trying to warn you gently. Not to make you fearful. To make you wiser. Something huge is waiting for you, not outside of you, but within you. A deeper confidence. A steadier emotional foundation. A calmer understanding of your own value that no group opinion can shake anymore. That is the real treasure they unintentionally pushed you toward. Because without realizing it, their behavior forced you to reconnect with yourself. And now the atmosphere around you is beginning to respond differently. People are noticing your silence. Not empty silence. Powerful silence. The kind that no longer chases validation. The kind that listens more carefully. The kind that observes before trusting. One of those four individuals is especially uncomfortable now because they expected you to react emotionally. They expected long explanations. They expected frustration. But instead, you became quieter. More thoughtful. More distant in a peaceful way. And that peaceful distance revealed something unexpected. You were never dependent on their approval to begin with. The moment that truth became visible, the emotional balance shifted completely. Take a breath and listen carefully here. Not every separation in life is a punishment. Sometimes it is an invitation. An invitation toward better connections. Healthier energy. Clearer self-worth. And the strange part? Deep down, part of you already sensed these changes were coming long before they arrived. That uneasy feeling you carried recently was not confusion alone. It was your intuition preparing you emotionally for a new chapter. A chapter where you stop shrinking your light to protect the comfort of others. A chapter where your kindness remains intact, but your boundaries become stronger. A chapter where your heart still loves deeply, yet finally learns discernment. Tomorrow's encounter may seem ordinary on the surface. Perhaps just a conversation. A glance. A subtle interaction. But spiritually and emotionally, something much deeper will unfold beneath it. You will notice things you once ignored. You will hear hidden emotions inside simple words. You will recognize who carries sincerity, and who only carries performance. And once you see it clearly, you will never unsee it again. That is why your spirit feels restless tonight. Not because something bad is approaching. Because clarity is approaching. And clarity always changes everything. There is another layer to this story that has not fully revealed itself yet, and strangely, it is the quietest part that carries the deepest truth. Because while everyone around you has been focused on appearances, reactions, and assumptions, something far more meaningful has been unfolding beneath the surface of your life. Something your spirit has sensed in fragments but has not completely understood until now. You were never losing your place. You were being repositioned. That is why certain connections suddenly began feeling unfamiliar. That is why your energy no longer fit comfortably into conversations that once felt natural. You changed internally before your outer world had time to catch up. And when a person begins growing emotionally, the people around them often reveal who they truly are without realizing it. Stay till the end, because the next realization may explain emotions you have been carrying for months. One of the 4 individuals recently heard someone else speak positively about you, and instead of joining the conversation naturally, they became strangely quiet. Not angry. Not openly negative. Just silent in a way that exposed an inner conflict they were trying to hide. Because part of them knows your heart is genuine. Part of them remembers how deeply you cared, how patiently you listened, how sincerely you showed up even during moments when you yourself felt emotionally tired. And that memory has become difficult for them to escape. The truth always moves slowly at first. But once it begins rising, it cannot remain hidden forever. Meanwhile, you have been standing at the edge of emotional exhaustion without fully admitting it to yourself. Smiling through confusion. Remaining kind through distance. Pretending certain things did not hurt as deeply as they actually did. But your spirit notices everything, even the emotions you try to minimize. Especially those. And tonight, there is something your heart needs to hear clearly. You are not difficult to love. You are not too much. You simply reached a point where your soul could no longer survive on shallow connections pretending to be deep ones. That changes everything. Because suddenly, the loneliness you felt begins making sense. You were outgrowing environments that only understood surface-level versions of you. Your dreams became deeper. Your emotions became more intentional. Your peace became more valuable. And not everyone knew how to grow alongside that transformation. Don't skip. Because something important is waiting for you in this next moment. Tomorrow's encounter carries emotional weight for another reason too. Someone among those 4 individuals secretly expected life to humble you. They believed your light would eventually fade. They assumed disappointment would make you cynical, bitter, or emotionally reactive like everyone else they had encountered before. But instead, you became calmer, more reflective, more emotionally aware. And that quiet growth unsettled them more than any argument ever could. Because people know how to respond to anger. They know how to respond to chaos. But genuine peace? Genuine self-awareness? That confuses people who are still battling themselves internally. You must understand this carefully. Not everyone who misunderstands you is evil. Some people are simply lost inside their own insecurities. Some are carrying unspoken pain. Some are projecting old disappointments onto people who never caused them. And some only realize your value after your energy begins pulling away. That realization is beginning now. You can feel it in the atmosphere already. The tension is shifting. The emotional distance is becoming noticeable. And one person in particular feels an emptiness they cannot explain whenever your presence disappears from the room. They may never say it directly. Pride often prevents honesty from arriving quickly. But internally, your absence is speaking louder than your explanations ever did. Something huge is waiting for you, and it arrives the moment you stop chasing people who were never fully aligned with your spirit in the first place. Because look at how much of yourself you have already survived. The sleepless nights. The emotional confusion. The silent overthinking. The moments you questioned your own worth simply because certain people failed to recognize it properly. Yet somehow, you are still here. Still listening. Still hoping. Still carrying kindness inside a world that sometimes tried to harden you. That alone says more about your strength than you realize. And now your energy is changing again. Not dramatically. Quietly. Beautifully. You are becoming someone who no longer panics when certain people pull away. Someone who no longer measures their value through temporary approval. Someone who finally understands that peace is more important than forced closeness. That lesson is priceless. One of those 4 individuals is about to understand something tomorrow that they were not emotionally prepared for. Your spirit is no longer easy to manipulate through silence or emotional confusion. You see too clearly now. You notice patterns faster. You recognize inconsistency without needing endless proof. And most importantly, you are slowly learning to trust yourself again. That is the real turning point. Because once a person reconnects with their inner clarity, outside opinions lose much of their power. And the people who benefited from your self-doubt begin feeling the shift immediately. Have you noticed how your intuition has become sharper lately? You sense emotional tension faster now. You notice hidden meanings inside simple conversations. You feel energy changes before words even arrive. That is not your imagination. Your awareness is expanding because your spirit has been preparing you for healthier alignment. Not louder relationships. Not perfect relationships. Healthier ones. The kind where you do not have to shrink your personality just to maintain harmony. The kind where your peace is not constantly tested. The kind where honesty flows naturally instead of feeling forced. And although part of your heart still grieves what could have been, another part of you is finally beginning to understand why certain distances became necessary. Sometimes separation reveals truth more clearly than closeness ever could. Tomorrow will not just reveal others to you. It will reveal you to yourself. The stronger version. The calmer version. The version that no longer abandons its own peace trying to rescue unstable connections. And once that version fully awakens, your entire emotional world begins to change. Listen closely now, because the atmosphere surrounding your life is becoming clearer with every passing moment, even if the full picture has not completely unfolded yet. There is a reason your heart has felt suspended between reflection and anticipation lately. A reason certain memories keep resurfacing when you least expect them. A reason your spirit has been quietly asking deeper questions about who truly deserves access to your energy. You are awakening emotionally in ways that cannot be reversed. And the people around you feel it. Especially those 4 individuals. At first, they believed your kindness meant permanence. They assumed your patience would continue endlessly no matter how they behaved. But they never stopped to consider something important. Even the gentlest soul eventually learns the difference between being appreciated and merely being emotionally convenient. That realization has changed you more than anyone realizes. Don't skip, because something important is waiting for you in this next unfolding moment. One of them tried distracting themselves from thoughts about you recently. They stayed busy. Surrounded themselves with noise. Laughed louder than usual. Yet in quiet moments, your energy returned to their mind unexpectedly. Not because you forced your presence into their world, but because sincerity leaves echoes behind. Real hearts are not forgotten easily. That is what makes this situation so emotionally complicated for them now. Deep down, they know you were never the problem they quietly painted you to be. And tomorrow, whether through words, silence, or subtle emotional shifts, part of that truth will become impossible for them to ignore any longer. Meanwhile, your own transformation continues quietly beneath the surface. You are becoming more emotionally selective. More intentional. More aware of how deeply environments affect your peace. There was a time when you tolerated emotional confusion simply because you feared losing connections. But now? Something inside you is beginning to value inner calm more than temporary closeness. That change may appear small from the outside, yet spiritually and emotionally, it is enormous. Because once a person begins protecting their peace, everything around them reorganizes naturally. Suddenly, forced conversations fade away. Unclear intentions become easier to recognize. And people who once underestimated your emotional depth begin realizing they never truly understood you at all. Stay till the end, because the next realization may explain why your heart has felt emotionally distant lately. You have outgrown environments built on hidden tension. Your spirit craves honesty now. Not perfection. Honesty. You no longer want connections where affection feels uncertain one day and absent the next. You no longer wish to carry relationships entirely through your own emotional effort. And perhaps the most important shift of all, you are finally learning that your kindness should never require self-abandonment. That lesson arrived through pain, yes. But it also arrived through wisdom. And wisdom changes everything. One of those individuals secretly hoped you would chase clarity forever. They expected you to remain emotionally available no matter how inconsistent the energy became. Yet your silence recently has unsettled them deeply. Because your silence no longer feels wounded. It feels resolved. That difference matters. A wounded silence waits desperately to be noticed. A resolved silence quietly moves forward. You are entering the second kind now. Something huge is waiting for you, and it begins the moment you fully stop confusing emotional attachment with emotional alignment. Not everyone who enters your life is meant to walk beside your future self. Some people arrive only to reveal what your spirit can no longer tolerate. Some arrive to teach discernment. Some arrive to mirror unhealed parts of themselves. And some only understand your value once your energy becomes unavailable to them. That realization is beginning to unfold around you now like a slow sunrise. Can you feel it? That strange calmness underneath your emotions tonight? That is not numbness. That is your spirit preparing to release what no longer feels genuine. And strangely enough, as this release begins happening internally, your light becomes stronger externally. People notice your energy differently now. There is a steadiness in you that was not there before. A quiet emotional maturity shaped by disappointment, reflection, and growth. You survived moments that nearly convinced you to doubt your own worth. Yet here you are. Still carrying compassion. Still choosing softness over bitterness. Still believing meaningful connections exist. That is rare. And somewhere among those four individuals, one person has begun realizing they may have misunderstood you completely from the beginning. The image they created in their mind no longer matches the reality of who you truly are. Your consistency exposed their assumptions. Your calmness exposed their projections. And your quiet withdrawal exposed how much emotional space you actually occupied in their life. That truth is becoming heavier for them to carry. But your journey is no longer about proving yourself. That season is ending. Now your journey is about alignment. Peace. Clarity. And emotional reciprocity. No more one-sided effort. No more shrinking your light to avoid intimidating uncertain people. No more apologizing for the depth of your heart. Tomorrow's encounter is not arriving to break you. It is arriving to confirm how much you have already grown. You will notice it in the way you respond differently. In the way you remain calm instead of emotionally overwhelmed. In the way your intuition quietly guides you without panic. And perhaps for the first time in a long time, you will realize something beautiful. You do not need everyone to understand you in order to continue becoming who you were meant to be. That understanding will free you more than you know. Because the moment you stop carrying the burden of being misunderstood, your spirit finally has room to breathe again. And this story is still unfolding. Quietly. Slowly. Powerfully.